I'm Andrew McCook, and I'm from Marietta, Georgia. When I was probably in first or second grade, we had an assignment where we had to cut out a silhouette of ourselves. And that silhouette that I cut out was a figurine that had pants, a shirt, some buttons, no hair, my mouth was wide open, I had no hands or feet, but I made sure to put a zipper. It was very strange because most kids, when you draw yourself, you have hands, you have feet, you're smiling, you have hair, but I had none of that. The child's psychologist said, that sounds like your child is crying out, like desperate in need of something, but she didn't know what it meant. It wasn't until high school where I really realized the difference between boys and girls and how you needed to act and the expectation of you to act. I can remember sitting down and writing a letter to my mom where I said, I'm struggling with my sexual identity. I feel God should have made me a boy. Never gave her the letter. Did have a conversation with her, but I quickly realized that the pain that I saw in her eyes wasn't worth it. So I reverted back and I said, okay, I just haven't found the right person. And then I went to college and I thought of that as a new chapter. And I can create this new identity, this new world, these new friends, and I immersed myself in everything girl. I joined a sorority, I wore skirts, I wore pearls every single day. My sophomore year, I lived with two of my sorority sisters, and I was really struggling at that point because I started to hear the words transgender. And that's sort of, again, when it all clicked. This is me. But I couldn't. I wasn't ready. This was also 2001, 2. The world wasn't there yet. Acceptance wasn't there yet. But I told them. And they're like, okay, we don't care. And I was like, okay. I called my mom. I told her again. We saw a therapist. We talked through it. And then immediately I recoiled. I told my friends that I made a mistake. Maybe I'm just gay. Maybe I'm just trying to figure myself out. Never mind. So I graduated college and I bounced around the country for about 6 years, slowly building my career, going back and forth between being straight, being a lesbian, and finally landing in a place where I started to feel comfortable living as a lesbian. It was around that time that I started to get into bodybuilding because I was desperate to see this physical image of what I knew that I should look like. And so I started to subconsciously, unknowingly tap into understanding that I potentially could be transgender and facing that. But I still wasn't ready. It wasn't until March of 2017 that I just had the darkest moment of my life. I emerged from the subway and I had about a 2-block walk to my apartment. And during that time, I would listen to music, I would call somebody, but it was silent. And it was like the floodgates opened. And I had a deep, agonizing cry on the street that I had never felt before. And I went home and I climbed into bed, and it was a cry that literally overwhelmed my entire body. So after that night, I made an appointment with a therapist, and I saw her for about 2 or 3 sessions. She finally said, as she put down her paper, she goes, I don't know if I can help you. I can't figure out what this root cause is. Everything you've told me doesn't add up. There's something else. And that is when I just looked at her and I said, I'm transgender. And it was a pause. And she said, I know. Within about a 2-week period, I was offered a position with my company in Chicago. And that is when I moved to Chicago and I began my new journey. I told my mom, my closest friends, some family members. With time and with acceptance and support that I received, it became easier to where it was just another conversation. So I told a friend who also happens to be a peer at work, and he suggested that we go tell somebody who was higher up in the company to let them know what was going on. I remember standing outside of her office and my friend, standing there with me saying, "Are you ready? It's okay. It's going to be okay." So we go into the office and we sit down and she asks, "Is everything okay? What's going on?" And I told her, and there was this pause, and then all of a sudden you can see these tears in her eyes. She just stands up, she comes over, and she hugs me. And by this point, I'm bawling. And she said, "We're doing this right. What do you need from me?" And from that moment on, I knew that I had the support. With each week, with each, shot of testosterone, I started to feel alive. I started to feel like me. I started to feel this incredible calmness, this confidence, this joy. But I felt like I couldn't share it with anyone. I went to my leadership team and I said, "We're going to do this in 2 weeks." And they were sort of like, "What? That's really quick." And I said, I can't do this anymore. I've been doing it for 33 years. I'm ready. And they responded. To be able to come into work and to be able to know that I had these silent champions, that the day that I told my leadership team, the day that I told my project teams, the day that I sent the letter on September 29th that said, "Introducing Andrew," and shared this journey, this decision to transition, what pronouns to use, was terrifying. It was liberating, but it was terrifying. And I came into work Monday, and it was like I just won the lottery, that everything would be okay, that I can finally live as Andrew. I think our worst fears, to a degree, we create. And we just need to give people a chance to get to know the real you. Give them a chance to accept you. Give them a chance to love you. And there'll be people that won't. But the ones that do, in the longevity and the time that we have here on earth, are the ones that end up mattering.